he must have a strong immune system because the water is quite dirty, right?
Yes, the water is dirty. But the thing is, we are used to it, and falling into the water doesn't affect him. Nothing would happen.
No?
All he needs to do is just to go back home, wash himself, and then start moving. So that's it.
Stansport has been manufacturing high-quality camping gear since 1949, and this time it comes with Stansport Jumbo Camper Shower, which boasts a simple design, has a large capacity, and, of course, comes at a reasonable price. The specialty of this portable shower is that it delivers hot water without requiring you to use any traditional heat sources. Yeah, it's a solar shower that absorbs heat from the sun and can create 5 gallons of hot water in no time. This much shower is sufficient for up to 4 showers, and besides, you can also use it for washing your dishes after having delicious meals at your campsite. And for controlling the stream, it comes with a hose and shower head, including on and off switches. Lastly, this 1.1 pound shower contains a sturdy handle for hanging and carrying convenience. All in all, the Stansport Jumbo Camper Shower is simple, delivers you hot water to rinse off, and helps you with camp cleaning chores while enjoying the great outdoors.
So basically we're going to take this up on the roof, and I know it doesn't seem like a whole lot of water, and it's not, but it's going to be more than enough for you to take a nice little hot shower real quick. As soon as the sun hits this will probably heat up to, I'm not even sure, we're going to find out. I bought this little thermometer and we're going to mount that inside of it, and we're going to see how hot that water actually gets. So let's go up on the roof there and mount. So you can see how easy this sits up here. You notice that I've created a little bit of a gap right there just to make sure it'll all fit. It fits solid. Then I'm going to take something and we'll just secure it down here, some straps, just so that the wind doesn't blow it over. And then from the gutter up there, we'll go ahead and run another drop down into here so that, you know, it fills it up each time it rains. Works really good.
And there's this crazy statistic. Enough water falls on our rooftops in Tucson that if we were able to capture all of it, it would be more than enough for all of our needs, literally, which is kind of crazy. I mean, we only get 12 inches, but if we were able to capture and store all of it, it would be enough, even in that tiny amount, which is kind of mind-blowing.
This entire site is 400 square meters, with a roof area of 150 square meters. Chennai's average rainfall totals 1,400 millimeters per year. Imagine that 1 square meter receives this 1.4 meters of yearly rainfall. And since 1 cubic meter holds 1,000 liters, then each square meter in Chennai has 1,400 liters of rain falling on it in an average year. When we do the math on Gayatri's roof, we find that 200,000 liters of rain falls on it each year. That is the equivalent of 20 water tanker trucks. This goes the same for every rooftop in Chennai, but the vast majority of rainwater is wasted down roads and drainage ditches without being harvested.
I think the experiment worked. We filled 2 5-gallon buckets in a matter of 6 or 7 minutes with a good heavy rain. It's definitely coming down, people. Definitely coming down.
Right here is the bird eye view.
And your bed is here?
Yes, that's my bed.
Got a nice view, eh?
Outdoor shower is done. Now we're waiting for the rain to come, and it's right on schedule. Awesome. Love it when a plan comes together. Ooh, that's a big one there.
A long time coming, and he was thinking and thinking, how can I do it, because he's so tall, so we could get the water pressure. And this was such a good idea. It's amazing. Turn it up all the way.
Yeah, so you can just barely turn it on. You can get a nice
just get
shower.
a little bit.
That's plenty good shower, but then you can go
I mean,
full
look
force.
at that.
Yeah.
You don't even get that much pressure in the city. I mean, it's amazing. It's the truth. It comes out so good. It's
She's
really
loving
good.
on her husband.
It's really good.
Good morning and welcome to sunny New Jersey. We're out in the Pine Barrens here, working on our latest project. We have a little outdoor shower going with 8 people living in our house. Didn't want to put too much pressure on our septic system, so decided to try to do this for as little money as possible, not running any electric or plumbing or having a pressure tank involved. We had a bunch of shower heads laying around, and we were actually a little bit worried about the water pressure, because we kept seeing that you needed quite the distance between the water source and the actual drain to build up the pressure and have it come out at a pretty good speed. This is only about 8 to 12 inches from the actual barrel, but we were pleasantly surprised when we hooked it up. It's almost as good as it is inside, maybe even a little bit better. Temperature right now, well, on the chilly side, it's around 80 degrees here in New Jersey. But when we had those 90, 100 degree days, I was coming out here every day taking multiple showers. So we might look at putting something in the future if we can get it inexpensively or free, some kind of solar system, because again, we don't really want to run electric all the way out here. We don't have to. Made this little rod with a hook and a flat bar on it to help the kids be able to reach that chain, pull it down, and then push the lever back up when they're using the shower. They got the hang of that pretty quick. And then up here we have a hose that goes up to the top of the barrel. I'll try to climb up there so you can see it better. That serves as both our overflow spout and our filling system when it isn't raining. Right now we have it so that the garbage can lid, which we painted and heats up the water pretty well up top, secures everything, keeps everything in, and keeps all the other stuff we don't want out. But when it's not raining, we can fill it up via that hose right there, and then everything's secured with that strap. Even painted the deck black to see if that would help warm things up a little bit more.
Off-grid showering, and it's free! Buy a specific solar shower bag. There's many different brands out there. As you can see, we got these 2 solar shower bags. And the reason why I am encouraging you to do the solar shower bag is they are specific for solar showering. They hold 5 gallons. 5 gallons of water, that's a lot of water, which actually increases the pressure when you take a shower. I keep handy a big barrel of rainwater, and if I don't want a really hot shower, because these bags will get really hot, I will take one of my solar bags and I'll fill it up with the barrel water, which is going to be a little bit cooler. Okay friends, go get yourself a solar bag and do it the off-grid way.
Hi everybody, this is Paul Vail with Homesteading Ways, and today I'm going to show you guys our indoor off-grid shower. The biggest reason why I want to show this video is because I've been looking at a lot of different videos out there on off-grid showers, most of them being outside. But here, me and Sandra, we live in Wisconsin, which 5 months of the year is very cold. And an outdoor shower would not do us good for all year round. So when we built this off-grid cabin, we had to figure for an indoor off-grid shower. So all we have to do to get water is, I just got to turn this up here, and that gives us water, and our water is automatically hot because we have a hot water on demand. To shut it off, we just put it here.
This is where I'm at in my shower. I have the hot water hooked up. It's now on and warming up the water up there. You could hear it bubbling, and the tank is slightly warmer. So this could be adjusted any way it needs to. So I'm going to turn on the warm water right now and just do like halfway. So this is just like halfway with the warm water. I'll see if it gets warm at all. Right now it's really cold. Let's see if it gets any warmer. That's a really good flow though. That's amazing. That's just with the hot water valve halfway on, and it's already really good. So I'll turn the cold water on now. So they're on. So the cold and hot water are on full blast. That looks like just a regular shower. That's awesome. So I'm going to get a hot water onto this. It'll be the exact same thing. I already know that's going to work well. So that worked just as good as I was hoping, and even better. That was just like a regular shower. That was amazing. All gravity fed, no pump whatsoever.
To install a gray water system from a shower or a sink, you first need to cut into the drainage plumbing and install a diverter valve. That way you can either send the gray water to the landscape or divert it back to the sewer or septic system. Instead of going under the house to show you the valve from the shower, I'll show you the valve from the sink. If I turn the valve this way, gray water flows to the sewer, and when I turn it this way, it goes outside to the landscape. Because this is a gravity system with no tanks and no pumps, gray water flows through downward sloping pipes to the landscape. The flow is divided or branched multiple times, with the end of each branch ending in a mulch basin. The mulch basin is a sunken area in the landscape filled with wood chips, located near a larger plant like a tree or a bush. This system irrigates these fruit trees. Imagine gray water flowing by gravity down the drain, flowing through pipes, being divided up by flow splitters, and falling onto mulch, irrigating the roots of the trees. Hair and dirt get caught in the wood chips where they decompose. This system lasts a long time because it operates entirely on gravity with no moving parts. It requires very little maintenance. Just replenish the mulch once a year.
New system allows longer showers, minus the guilt of wasting water and energy. But with new technology, it might be possible to enjoy an unlimited amount of time in the shower while still saving water. A normal shower uses about 10 liters of water per minute. An average 11-minute shower usually results in 110 liters of water going down the drain. A system called Shower Loop recycles the water and sends it on a continuous loop, allowing longer showers while creating less waste. The used shower water is first collected and cleaned through filtration. A screen removes hair and other objects, sand filters out particles, activated carbon removes smells and chemicals, and UV light kills bacteria. With the water already hot to begin with, very little heat energy is needed to maintain its temperature as it loops around. After the shower, the water can either go down the drain or be reused for other things like laundry or toilet flushing. The whole design is available open source, allowing other people to build their own and improve on the system.
There's my tangerines.
You weren't kidding about the whole jungle thing.
The sewage of the toilet go out to septic tanks at either end, and then you know how a septic tank has a drain field.
Yeah.
The drain field comes right back in under here in a rubber lime cell. This is all growing from shit.
We've got these cool planter cells, and there's 2 of them in this building, and these white tubes allow you to sort of see where the standing level of the water is, and so they're like a gray water holding cell. So when we wash our hands or have a shower, the water flushes into here, but the water kind of sits in the sand level, and then through the plants can like little straws basically can suck up that water from down low. So once the plants are established, then we don't need to water them. But yeah, it's been great to be able to grow our own food and just come out here and pick it as needed in the kitchen, and it's super fun.
If we take a step back, it just looks so beautiful. We'll walk up the spiral staircase onto your rooftop deck and check that out. Whenever you arrive up here, this is a huge rooftop deck. There's so much space. You have seating right over here in the middle, and then you even have a grill up here if you need to grill out. And they even provide cornhole boards for you. And I think this deck is so big, you can play cornhole up here on the deck.
Hi, I'm Rosanna. Welcome to my rooftop garden in Brooklyn, New York.
Here's a really exciting one. Check out this summer squash. It's huge. Yep, in the middle of West Hollywood.
here. No, it's a very unique design. 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 Design.
And the third project that I've been working on has been a gravity-powered watering system so that I can water the plants in the greenhouse with a hose. And that's what that little water tower behind me is. And then I just have a little valve on the end that I can open to water the plants, and it actually gives surprisingly a lot of pressure.
Customers have the CNC drawings for this kind of cabinetry. I mean, round corners are nice until you start buying cabinets and countertop. So we give them the CNC drawings so that they can throw a piece of corian down and just cut it out, and it just fits right into place, and it matches the drawing for this.
A lot of value engineering in this building with the doors and the kitchen setup.
Yeah, I mean, my mom's like, Jimmy, where's the trash compactor? Where's the, garbage disposal? I mean, Mom, they were living in a tent. This is for the homeless, okay?
Yeah, affordable housing's the idea.
But that was the cool thing of doing this. That they said, yeah, let's extend this a foot bigger so we have a shower area.
Here we are, heading into the back house, the accessory dwelling unit of House Zero.
Where you can throw your in-laws.
That's exactly right. Let's turn on some lights here. Gentlemen, a little illumination. Turn on some lights here, turn on some lights here, turn on some lights here.
Everyone loves their home drenched in natural sunlight.
Now, this is the same scene at the same time of day with the same camera. There's no electrical lights of any kind.
So here we are in the ADU of House Zero. As you can see, it's quite small. It's a little under 400 square feet, but like super cozy. And so we have a Murphy bed in here so that it could be sleeping area by night. And then you fold the Murphy bed and there's a more common space, sitting area, hang out area, whatever you need to do by day. Over here we have a very small kitchenette, but it is fully featured. So we have, cooktop, we have dishwasher, we have refrigerator. You sort of have all the basic things you would need to actually sort of stay in the house for a good bit. Then you come around the corner and we get to actually my favorite bathroom in the whole project, even from the front house. This little shower area is actually my favorite because it's almost completely circular, and you sort of stand in this like really nice cozy space. You've got a nice frosted floor to ceiling window, and taking a shower back here is very, very cool.
This unit would make a killing on Airbnb.
Yes, it certainly would. And so again, even though we're doing sort of a very intentional sort of a showpiece, this house is high architecture, high finish level. This is not an affordable housing project. Still making sure we're thinking about how would you deliver a smaller, more affordable unit, even while using these kind of new, very forward-thinking architectures. And so we're really proud of how this unit came out, and we think the project together says a lot about 3D printing and where 3D printing could go in the future.
To install a gray water system from a shower or a sink, you first need to cut into the drainage plumbing and install a diverter valve. That way you can either send the gray water to the landscape or divert it back to the sewer or septic system. Instead of going under the house to show you the valve from the shower, I'll show you the valve from the sink. If I turn the valve this way, gray water flows to the sewer, and when I turn it this way, it goes outside to the landscape. Because this is a gravity system with no tanks and no pumps, gray water flows through downward sloping pipes to the landscape. The flow is divided or branched multiple times, with the end of each branch ending in a mulch basin. The mulch basin is a sunken area in the landscape filled with wood chips, located near a larger plant like a tree or a bush. This system irrigates these fruit trees. Imagine gray water flowing by gravity down the drain, flowing through pipes, being divided up by flow splitters, and falling onto mulch, irrigating the roots of the trees. Hair and dirt get caught in the wood chips where they decompose. This system lasts a long time because it operates entirely on gravity with no moving parts. It requires very little maintenance, just replenish the mulch once a year.
Wow! So this is plastics. 13,400 kilos of plastic waste from our gutters and beaches.
You are kidding me.
It's true. It's true.
This is a proper home.
These are the concrete countertops we just installed in our kitchen. If you want to see how we did it, stay tuned.
What's up, Flip fam? Thank you guys for stopping by. I'm super excited about today's episode because we're talking concrete countertops. I've had a ton of people ask me about this, so I'm really excited to dive in because concrete countertops are a great option for your kitchen. They look and feel a lot more premium than laminate, and they're a fraction of the cost of something like marble or granite.
And its signature look adds a ton of character to your kitchen.
Drop it. Customers have the CNC drawings for this kind of cabinetry. I mean, round corners are nice until you start buying cabinets and countertop and countertop and countertop and countertop. So we give them the CNC drawings so that they can throw a piece of corian down and just cut it out, and it just fits right into place, and it matches the drawing for this. 2 more feet that way, big deal. $50 more in material, but $50 more in material, but $50 more in material. But
here we are in the living room or living space, and majority of our furniture in this house is actually built out of cob. It's cheaper and it looks cool. Cob's a nice couch building material because if you have a curved wall like we did right here, you don't have to try to fit modern, flat back couches into a space that's kind of hard. You just build your custom cob bench in whatever shape you want and you're good to go.
And for example, here in the living room, this space is very special for us. It's our shelter. It was for us very important just to feel the coziness of the stone, and this corner is magic. Because I can get the views from the river, I have the swimming pool.
Oye, ¿qué haces?
Un video. We wanted like this rough aspect. We have 3 girls. We didn't want something like very, very difficult to keep.
It's just directly on top.
Directly, yeah. Because it's nice because it doesn't slide. You're like, no way, yeah. For us, it was very important to be comfortable in our house.
Enjoy the outdoors in comfort and style with custom-built concrete furniture from Quick Curb. Will and his team have developed a mix unlike any other in the region, crafting a modern-look design with durability.
Will and Quick Curb were beyond helpful. I've never worked with a company that's seen things through the way that they have. We needed something that could withstand the winters and then also be attractive and comfortable. Will was able to do that all the way through. I would recommend Quick Curb to anyone because of their excellence, because of their professionalism, all the way from Will to every single person that delivers. They're amazing.
You can get started now with a free no-obligation quote. Just give Quick Curb a call. Visit their website or stop into their showroom to check out their unique line of concrete furniture options.
Until you start buying cabinets, 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 and countertop, and countertop, and countertop, and countertop. Two more feet that way, big deal. $50 more in material, but $50 more in material, but $50 more in material, but.
I get a little bit breathless. My thoughts are too big. Can I get some comfort, please? Won't you lay it on me? Turn the page and burn it. Let's make up a big bonfire and throw our problems in the flames.
This is our villa. Let's go inside.
Welcome to our villa. We can finally speak a little louder and it looks amazing.
Okay, so here's the tour. Here we have the bed. I'm not sure how it's called in English.
Princess. Well, I have no idea, but it looks like a princess bed. And this style of bed is called canopy bed, and you can open this and be completely inside your nest.
We didn't even do that.
No, it was supposed to be for privacy back then, but nowadays it's more for like style.
Yeah, well, don't need this. What I found very interesting about this bed is that the mattress is on top of a concrete block. And yesterday I said, this is great because you never have to clean below the bed.
Not only that, but behind it, it's also concrete.
Everything is made out of concrete. When you look to the side, you can see those big arches, which I said look like the Islamic architecture, Josh said the Indian architecture.
Mm-hmm.
And both is correct, we looked it up. Right next to the pool, we have our lounge area.
If only we had friends.
This looks like it is made for more people than just the two of us, but it's just the two of us. And there's only one bed. This is my view. Probably cannot see it, but there's a lizard on our pillow. Bye, lizard. This is our pool during the day. We'll probably go in again. Do you want to?
Yes, I think so. Are you ready?
Yeah. Wow.
So it feels like an open air bathroom, although it isn't. It's weird to explain. Like you feel like you're outside, but you're not. The shower looks very nice, like zen. When you're showering and it's a little bit watery everywhere, looks nice.
Here we have a sink.
Also made out of concrete.
When we wake up, the first thing we see is
the pool is so full that I'm so scared that I'm gonna spill it everywhere. Oh, I cannot go one more step.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it that deep?
Yeah.
It needs light, sun, so in the summer, spring and summer, I bring it out here and let it have light. In the fall and winter, I bring it in, it has its own grow light, so I have produce year round.
Everyone loves their home drenched in natural sunlight.
Now, this is the same scene at the same time of day with the same camera. There's no electrical lights of any kind. I like this how the stairwell is lit and the sunlight spreads pretty well throughout the space.
We build it with school children. Anybody passing around, they are interested to see what we are doing. They will come, hey, come, let's arrange. That's why you see some of the bricks not really straight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you got the community to help you.
To help me. So you don't really need to spend much in building this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this is plastics. 13,400 kilos of plastic waste from our gutters and beaches.
You are kidding me.
It's true. It's true.
This is a proper home.
A dad got sick because they don't have the money for the treatment. I think that's what leads to his death. A dad got sick because they don't have the money for the treatment. I think that's what leads to his death. The mother, she also fell sick and died too. So since then, Shegun has been moving around the community, not even going to school, not eating well, not eating well, not eating well.
So this is super cool. Plants have developed their own defense mechanism to help them fight off certain bacteria, fungi, insects, and even viral infections. And part of their immune system are these compounds that are called phytochemicals that are also known as phytonutrients. And what happens is that when we consume plant foods, we essentially just absorb these phytonutrients. And research has shown that these compounds help to even protect us from chronic diseases. They help to reduce inflammation and are potent in helping to protect us from cancer and heart disease. And so fruits and vegetables are very rich in these phytonutrients, and to make sure that we get a good mix of these nutrients into our system, we want to try to aim to eat a variety of different colors. And so diversity is at least as important as quantity. So let's explore each of these colors and the benefits that they can provide.
This is the greenhouse on the banks of the Yarra at Melbourne's iconic Federation Square. The three-storey house is just 87 square metres, which is about a quarter of the average Australian home. But it has a big ambition to demonstrate a productive, sustainable and no-waste future. It's a house that functions like an ecosystem packed with life. The people living in it also happen to be a couple of Australia's most talented, innovative chefs. The house is bursting with produce grown on site, and they're serving it all up with some serious creativity. Welcome to the future food system.
Our food system is the most destructive human activity on Earth. It doesn't need to be. And to me, the solution is where we live. We need to harvest the water that we already waste. We need to harvest the nutrients that we waste and create a food system that's a closed loop. And living, breathing buildings that are ecosystems, to me, just makes so much sense. Welcome.
Here we are. Look at this place.
Come in, mate. Come in.
Most people have a welcome mat, and you've got this wall of mushrooms as a focus point. What's going on here?
Well, it's kind of utilising waste that every person already creates. So it's capturing the water from the hot water service, which normally goes down the drain. Plus also the steam from the shower is pumped into the mushroom. It's pretty amazing.
Oh, so this is a mush room.
Yes. Every house should have a mushroom, a bathroom, and a bedroom.
This is KFC's burger, and this is my version. Fight! My KFC burger, that's gonna knock KFC's burger out of the park. You may remember that a few months ago I made a video finding out which plant-based ingredient made the best fried chicken. And we found that oyster mushrooms were absolutely incredible. So we're gonna be using them today, but I'm not gonna use the same recipe as I did in that video. I wanna enhance it. Every time I cook, I'm always trying to enhance and improve my recipes, and that's what I'm doing today actually. So it's simple though. I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna break it down for you. You will love this. Let's build the burgers and dunk them in that gravy. So first up, a lovely layer of mayonnaise, some lovely baby gem lettuce, little tomato, gherkins. All right, let's get one of these mushrooms on top. Look at that, beautiful. A few jalapenos on top. Let's get that lid on. Let's dunk it in the gravy. Oh my gosh, now that is Gaz's KFC burger. Dripping. Here it goes. Oh my gosh. It's probably all over me right now, but that is unreal. The gravy. Oh. I've gone to heaven now. That's the best mouthful of food I've had all of 2023. Oh. I think we found ourselves a winner. Wow, what on earth? I can't even describe this. Admire that in all its glory. My mouth is watering just at the thought of being able to create this epic al pastor. So how am I going to make this meaty, meat-free? I'm going to be using the most infamous, the most amazing, the best mushrooms ever. Oyster mushrooms, and I got a ton of them here. Oh my God, let's just give this a turn, all right? Admire that in all its glory. Al pastor mushroom. Let's carve this baby up. Right, I'm gonna turn this upside down. Yes, al pastor. Look at that. Wow. Have we done it again? Unbelievable. But does it taste good? That's what's most important. So I'm gonna get this into a taco now with some of the guac, with some of the pineapple, green salsa. Let's taste. All right, here it goes. Oh my God, this takes me back to Mexico. Does it taste like Mexico? Muy rico. It's juicy, it's meaty, it's tender, it's sweet and spicy and absolutely unbelievable. This is a taco al pastor for sure. Mi amigo Tom, this one is for you to hopefully reignite the Mexican spirit that we had.
That is phenomenal.
Muy rico?
This is ridiculously good. You have to try it, guys, honestly. Oh my days. My new favourite thing, I swear.
So Harrison,
finally.
Enjoy. No, that's not how you eat a taco.
How do I eat one?
You got to turn your head. No, yeah, you got to turn your head. So you got to hold the taco like this and turn your head, so eat it like on the side. Yeah. What do you think? I'm making another one.
Delicious.
All right, guys, this one has been an emotional one. There was times when I thought it wasn't going to happen, but we persevered and we're eating a whole flipping taco al pastor in Wales, in my garden. Unbelievable. Wow. As you know, I love oyster mushrooms with a passion. I've made some incredible things with them, so I thought I'd have a go at growing them myself. To start, I got some wood chips and sterilized them in some buckets, just using some boiling water. After soaking for a day, I drilled some holes in some buckets, then layered the soaked wood chips with the mushroom spawn. Now all this stuff can usually be found at a garden centre or online. Once I filled the buckets, I popped the lids on and set them aside to let the mushrooms eat the wood chips and grow. Only after 2 weeks I noticed that the mushrooms were starting to sprout through the little holes. Then 6 weeks later, the mushrooms are ready to be harvested. The mushrooms actually fruit twice, so you get 2 batches of delicious oyster mushrooms.
High trees, smaller trees, shrubs, perennials, ground cover layers, root crops, and climbers. So it includes directly useful plants, many types of fruit trees, both the common ones and much less common fruit trees. All the types of nuts, tuber crops, vegetables, medicinal plants, timber, but also logs that you might grow other things on, like mushrooms.
Mushroom, it's pretty amazing.
Oh, so this is a mush room.
Yes. Every house should have a mushroom, a bathroom, and a bedroom.
As we go upstairs, we pass another 2 systems that provide food and cut out waste. Aquaponics. The nutrients from the fish waste feeds the plants growing up top. The plants then clean the water, which flushes back into the fish tank. It's a closed loop. So I can see that this drum garden bed system is really the focus up on the roof.
I mean, yeah, my aesthetic is industrial, you know, using materials that are often disregarded, and they're made from recycled plastic, they're food-grade containers. Same reason that commercial growers grow strawberries and garlic in black plastic. It's to heat the soil. The soil gets warmer at the start of the day and stays warm longer, and they're the perfect wicking bed, so you don't lose any nutrients, you don't lose any water. They're the ultimate zero-waste system. Whatever you water gets stored and held in there. You get a downpour, you don't lose any water. You get a downpour, you don't lose any nutrients.
All this amazing produce is harvested by Joe Barrett and Matt Stone. They're living in their house and eating only what they grow. They're even harvesting enough to be able to share it with small groups of diners. What have you found surprising about living here and cooking and eating only what you grow?
I thought it was going to be quite a lot more demanding, but it's actually a lot easier than going to the supermarket and trying to decide what to cook for tea. We just go out the back and then the garden's actually guiding what we're cooking. Because it tastes so good, because we're just picking it from the garden, we actually don't have to do too much to it. And people love the idea of eating things that we're cutting to order and so fresh and just full
Or like
of
when you cut a salad as you eat it, it never tastes better. Like it's not been refrigerated, it's not been trucked around, it's not been handled by, you know, a heap of different people in the supermarket and then put on the shelf and then moved around and someone else has picked it up and put it down. You pick and eat. And that's how like all animals in the wild eat. They don't eat the dead stuff on the ground, they eat from a live tree or a branch or a berry. So we're kind of mimicking that and it makes our job really simple because it's really delicious.
There are so many other inspiring features in this house that are just too many to mention, like the walls made from compressed straw or the worms that eat polystyrene. This place is all about experimenting and giving all of us a glimpse of what's possible.
This is not a compromise. This is a much far superior way to live. And I think that if we can inspire people to change the way we live, it means that we don't need as much land to grow the food that we currently do. And that's what this is about. It's about taking pressure off our existing systems. You know, I really believe that human beings need to get to a point where it's really bad before everybody wakes up and goes, we need to do things differently. And I think that we're at that point. There's a real call now to change the way we live, to change what we do, to change the materials that we use. And that's something that I'm so excited by. I think that in 2050, we'll look back at 2020 as the year where everything changed.
I love what food does and I love cooking. I'm really lucky that I've found something that I can call a profession, but it's also my greatest love. My introduction into sustainable living was about cooking food that was the most delicious. And when you kind of start to understand farming and food production and cooking, always the most sustainably produced food is the most delicious. So for me, it's all about flavor, and the ethos behind the food comes through with the flavor of the food. Future Food System is an absolutely crazy, wild experiment. We could have done this project in a much more private area. We could have done it on a farm in the countryside, but we've gone as hectic as possible, and we're in central Melbourne in Federation Square. So we're completely on show. We're generating our own power. We're taking care of our own waste. We're growing our own food. Like, it's a really exciting experiment. There's not a rubbish bin in this place. It's a closed system, basically. So zero waste means closing the system. So we're not bringing waste in, we don't have to take waste out. The amount of things that you can just, by small applications, turn into something that's valuable again is really amazing. Innovation's so important. Like, we take a lot of our inspiration from proven primitive techniques of cookery, but we're introducing new technology into it. Like, the induction that we're using is the most phenomenal thing to cook on, because I can move a pan and it'll only heat where that pan is and the exhaust will follow it. So it's using minimal amount of power. You know, the fact that these appliances are so efficient and they are so good at what they do We're already reducing our emissions by just having, you know, this great equipment. So when you're striving to be the best, you need the best, and that's what Miller have. It can be really overwhelming to change your whole lifestyle to be more sustainable, but little things make a huge difference, more than a lot of people think, even if it's as simple as growing a pot of parsley on your balcony. You know, it seems really novel and really small, but parsley is going to be the most delicious because you pick and eat it. It's not been refrigerated, it's not been trucked around the countryside, it's not in a plastic bag. Just making small changes daily, weekly, monthly, yearly actually have a huge effect. Food for me it's brought me so much joy. Food has given me the chance to travel the world and to meet amazing people, and now I get to have a voice in the future of food to the next generation. So that's a really special position to be in, and the fact that we get to have a voice on what we think is a sustainable food future is very exciting.
Gravity system with no tanks and no pumps, grey water flows through downward sloping pipes to the landscape. The flow is divided or branched multiple times, with the end of each branch ending in a mulch basin. The mulch basin is a sunken area in the landscape filled with wood chips, located near a larger plant like a tree or a bush. This system irrigates these fruit trees. Imagine grey water flowing by gravity down the drain, flowing through pipes, being divided up by flow splitters, and falling onto mulch, irrigating the roots of the trees. Hair and dirt get caught in the wood chips where they decompose. This system lasts a long time because it operates entirely on gravity with no moving parts. It requires very little maintenance. Just replenish the mulch once a year.
There's my tangerines.
You weren't kidding about the whole jungle thing.
The sewage of the toilet go out to septic tanks at either end, and then you know how a septic tank has a drain field. The drain field comes right back in under here in a rubber lined cell. This is all growing from shit.
Hi, I'm Rosanna. Welcome to my rooftop garden in Brooklyn, New York. Rooftop garden, rooftop garden, rooftop garden.
Since it's indoors, you never have to worry about the weather affecting what you grow or when you grow it. Get perfect fruits and veggies all year round. Since it's indoors, indoors, year round, year round, year round.
There we have it. 14 quarts of green beans and potatoes.
Because I feel like that explains why our family does what we do and why we put up so much food and why we put up so much food and why we put up so much food and why we put up so much food. So the next year after that, I set a goal to grow 100% of the vegetables that our family of 6 eat from our backyard garden, and our garden at the time was 5,000 square feet. And so I learned a lot that first year. We made it 9 months without going to the store for vegetables. And then I also have a really good amount of fresh vegetables that are still in my garden. I am in US Zone 6B, and we have a mild enough winter that I am able to keep a lot of things in my garden.
Turn it up all the way.
Yeah, so you can just barely turn it on. You can get a
You
nice
just get
shower.
a little bit.
That's plenty good shower, but then you can go
I mean,
full
look
force.
at that.
Yeah.
You don't even get that much pressure in the city.
Here.
No, it's a very unique design. 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 Design.
Wow.
So this is plastics. 13,400 kilos of plastic waste from our gutters and beaches.
You are kidding me.
It's true. It's true.
This is a proper home.
In just under 2 days, the house is almost complete.
Print a house in a day. Otherwise, it's not faster, cheaper, better.
We didn't want to obsess about views, and we didn't want to obsess about being devoted to that. We were more keen on family and landscape So the house is designed for quite a lot of family to gather and have quality in things that are important. Cooking, gardening, raising young children, swimming, and being in nature, plus an appreciation for local artists and furniture that the family's inherited. So it was about making a home, and that's something I learned from the Danes in this project, really was the value of being able to bring an architecture down to human scale through fittings and fixtures and lighting and furniture.
Like a children's center?
Yes, sir, yes. The building was divided into two. I stay in one room and the other room is also used for class.
You live here?
Yes, I live here. Yes.
And so we're standing on dirt right now, right?
Yes.
So this was filled in?
This is where the kids play. They play. You can see up on it, they play football here in this place. It's like a land in the whole community. So all of them comes here.
So most children come here to play? And so how did you build this?
Yeah, we have to use some woods. We have to buy some wood to cover it up. Firstly, we have to start putting the sawdust. And after sawdust, we have to pay the sand diggers to go and bring sand. So we put sand on it and it becomes land.
This space is gardened by our Group Gardens program. We have about 20 families gardening together and growing things that you wouldn't normally grow in your own individual garden plot. For example, squashes. You can see a lot of space is taken up by squash, and you wouldn't have that space to do something like that in your own garden. We have carrots and peppers, sunflowers, chard, cabbage, cauliflower, and broccoli. You can kind of see the fruit trees here. Look at the fruit trees, they're just totally loaded. These are the ground falls that we picked up so far, and they may look a little dubious, but actually these are great for apple pies, apple sauce. You can dry these too if you wanted to. So we get a huge bounty of fruits here.
He must have a strong immune system because the water is quite dirty, right?
Yes, the water is dirty.
So this fish is caught from the water here?
Not from water here. They actually buy this from land. The one that comes from water here doesn't stay.
Okay.
They take them to the market and sell them at once.
So the water that comes from the water here is more valuable?
Yes, more valuable.
How much would this fish cost? Like for one, what's the price?
It's like 150.
150
naira. 150 naira.
Aquaponics is the way of the future and is growing in popularity. But what is aquaponics? Basically, aquaponics is an energy-efficient and cost-effective way to grow your own plants, flowers, or vegetables by mimicking a natural ecosystem. Aquaponics uses both fish and plants in a symbiotic relationship in a closed-loop system. Simply, fish excrete their waste into the water. This dirty water is pumped to the plants where beneficial bacteria converts the waste into plant food. The plants feed on this and this cleans the water. The clean water is then returned to the tank. There is no soil, unnatural fertilizers or chemicals in play at all in the aquaponics system. The nutrients that the plants needs comes directly from the fish. The benefits of aquaponics are: it's natural and organic, uses 90% less water than traditional farming, mercury-free healthy fish, no weeding, no soil pests, no watering, promotes self-sufficiency, produces more food per square foot than any other gardening system on Earth. For a sustainable environment, aquaponics is the way to go.
We're in an aquaponics farm. We use fish to generate our fertilizer. And the fertilizer is to uptake by the plants. And then the plants clean the water for the fish. So we have the completely recirculating, environmentally savvy ecosystem.
Let's get started by answering the question, what is aquaponics? In a nutshell, the name says it all. Aqua means water and ponics means to work or grow. So basically, aquaponics is a method of growing plants in water and using this as a habitat for rearing fish too. By growing plants and raising fish aquaponically, you take advantage of the best of both hydroponics and aquaculture. In hydroponics, you are merely growing your plants in water which most often gets pumped out the system. In aquaculture, toxic nutrient accumulation from the fish, fish food and fish waste means the water also needs to be constantly siphoned off and replaced with a clean supply. However, both these problems are solved in a mutually beneficial way in aquaponics. Not only is water saved through the continuous cycling from the fish, to the plants, and back to the fish again, but the plants are able to use up the toxic nutrients, making the recycled water safe for the fish again. Now that we have defined aquaponics, we need to understand how the process works. There is one process at the core of the system upon which everything depends. This process is the nitrogen cycle. If you remember, we mentioned that by placing plants into the system they clean the water and make it safe for the fish again. The nitrogen cycle makes this all possible. It all starts with ammonia. Ammonia is a waste product from the respiratory cycle of the fish, as well as decomposing fish food and fish waste. When ammonia accumulates in high concentrations, it becomes toxic to the fish. On every dark, wet surface in the aquaponics system exist nitrifying bacteria known as nitrosomonas. These are naturally occurring and extremely beneficial because they convert the ammonia to nitrite. Unfortunately, nitrite is even more toxic to the fish than ammonia. Luckily, there is another class of bacteria called nitrobacter, which convert the nitrites to nitrates. And this is fantastic because nitrates are a great nutrient source for the plants. So, as you can see, the nitrogen cycle is an extremely important process that converts toxic waste products into less toxic nutrients that the plants can use.
The fish waste provides organic food for the growing plants, and the plants naturally filter the water in which the fish live. The third and fourth critical, yet invisible actors in this symbiotic world are the beneficial bacteria and composting red worms. The beneficial bacteria exist on every moist surface of an aquaponic system. They convert the ammonia from the fish waste that is toxic to the fish and useless to the plants, first into nitrites and then into nitrates. The nitrates are relatively harmless to the fish, and most importantly, they make terrific plant food. At the same time, the worms convert the solid waste and decaying plant matter in your aquaponic system into vermicompost. There is no need for pesticide or herbicides. Soil-borne diseases and weeds are not a worry. There's no waste. Aquaponics actually uses only 10% of the water needed to grow plants in soil, and food can be grown year-round, both protein and veggie. Vegetables that grow with fish. When it comes to veggies and fish grown together, very few plants are opposed to aquaponics. Another favorite commercial aquaponic crop is herbs. Many herbs do very well with fish. Other suitable aquaponic vegetables include beans, broccoli, cucumbers, peas, spinach, squash, zucchini, tomatoes. Vegetables aren't the only choice of crop, however. Fruits such as strawberries, watermelon, and cantaloupe can be used and grow well with fish. Growing fish and garden crops together is beneficial to both plants and animals in a sustainable, low-impact way. It may possibly be the future of food production.
There's my tangerines.
You weren't kidding about the whole jungle thing.
The sewage of the toilet go out to septic tanks at either end, and then you know how a septic tank has a drain field.
Yeah.
The drain field comes right back in under here in a rubber lined cell. This is all growing from shit.
He must have a strong immune system because the water is quite dirty, right?
Yes, the water is dirty.
So this fish is caught from the water here?
Not from water here. They actually buy that from land. The one that comes from water here doesn't stay.
Okay.
They take them to the market and sell them at once.
So the water that comes from the water here is more valuable?
Yes, more valuable.
How?
And this canal behind me is coming for more than 300 miles as an open canal from the Colorado River, where it's already a little bit salty in its origin. On the way, it gets jacked up like this, more than 3,000 feet in elevation to arrive at this point, all the way in open sun evaporating. So by the time it gets here, it's even more salty. That electricity used to jack that water up is the largest consumer of electricity in the state of Arizona. And because that electricity comes from a coal-fired power station on Navajo land, it is the largest emitter of carbon into the atmosphere, just for the pumping of this water up to this point. It is the largest emitter of carbon into the atmosphere. It is the largest emitter of carbon into the atmosphere.
Desertification control operation aiming to fighting back the desertification and land degradation here in Kubuchi. And the reason why we're doing that is we're wanting to find a way to again restore the desert into a green oasis. And the way to doing that is we're wanting to adding organic matters back to the soil again, which has been lost 100 years ago. The reason for that is because the carbon being absorbed out of the soil by plants, all type of different plants, and then those plants being eaten up by animals by grazing activities, and then gradually it lost the carbon, released to the atmosphere or any other form. It lost the carbon, released to the atmosphere or any other form. It lost the carbon, released to the atmosphere or any other form.
It is the largest emitter of carbon into the atmosphere. It is the largest emitter of carbon into the atmosphere.
Initially, efforts focused on rain-fed croplands by building terraces and other soil and water conservation measures. Gradually, the rehabilitation works were extended to degraded, overgrazed communal areas. People realized that land could not be restored without managing livestock. So areas were enclosed, mostly by community agreement or social fencing. Land enclosure leads to better vegetative growth, indigenous biodiversity returns, and carbon is captured in the soil and trees. The land becomes healthier. In turn, the improved vegetation can be cut and carried to feed the livestock.
It lost the carbon, released to the atmosphere or any other form. It lost the carbon, released to the atmosphere or any other form.
It is the largest emitter of carbon into the atmosphere. It is the largest emitter of carbon into the atmosphere.
And carbon is captured in the soil and trees. The land becomes healthier, and carbon is captured in the soil and trees. The land becomes healthier, and carbon is captured in the soil and trees. The land becomes healthier.
From the tallest sequoia, to the smartest human, to the most poisonous mushroom, to the tiniest bacterium, there is one thing that unites all living things on Earth. And that is the fact that all life is based on carbon chemistry. This element is so important, in fact, that it has its own branch of chemistry, organic chemistry. But carbon is not the most abundant element on Earth. That would be oxygen. And it is not the most stable, like helium. On the surface, it doesn't appear particularly special. Yet, if we look at our body composition, we find that carbon is everywhere in our cells. 20% of our body is made up of carbon, but it comprises less than 1% of the mass of the Earth's atmosphere, oceans, and crust. Why did life go to the trouble of concentrating carbon 20-fold in our bodies when other more abundant elements like oxygen and silicon were available, or even nitrogen, which makes up 78% of our atmosphere? The big question is why? We're going to examine that, and we're going to trace the logic that nature used in choosing this all-important element, carbon. There are 94 naturally occurring elements on the periodic table. Why is everything based on carbon and not something else when the choices are so many? The answer boils down to three things: complexity, abundance, and stability. What do I mean by this? Let's start with complexity. Carbon is able to form the complex molecular structures needed for the complex chemistry that life requires. Why is carbon able to do this? To understand this, we have to look at the foundation of chemistry, which is physics, particularly quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics tells us that some electron orbital configurations are more energetically favorable than others, making them more stable. And the most stable configuration of electrons are those of the noble gases on the far right side of the periodic table. These are special elements that have a complete outer shell of electrons. This is the lowest energy configuration that an atom can have. This makes them chemically stable because they do not typically need to share, gain, or lose electrons to form bonds with other atoms to become more stable. This is also why they're chemically inert, since they do not generally interact with other atoms to form molecules. Why are only the noble gases this way and not other elements? Because they happen to have the right number of protons to have the right number of electrons to fill their shell fully. The driving force behind chemistry is really a hunt to get to the most energetically efficient state in a system, the state of lowest energy. And for the most part, this lowest energy state occurs when an atom is able to fill its outermost shell fully, like the noble elements. And some atoms can do this by sharing their electrons with other atoms to form what's called covalent chemical bonds. The periodic table of elements is arranged in such a way that we can easily tell by column the maximum number of bonds that an element can form with other elements. Starting from the left column of the table, the first group of atoms can form a maximum of 1 bond. The second column of elements can form 2 bonds. Third column, 3 bonds. This trend continues up to the fourth column, which can form 4 bonds. After this, the maximum number of bonds decreases. So the fifth column of elements can only form 3 maximum bonds. Then 2 bonds, 1 bond, and finally 0 bonds for the rightmost column, which are the noble elements, which are already the most stable. What you'll notice is that carbon is in the group of elements which can form the maximum number of bonds. It has a total of 6 electrons, 4 of which are on its outer shell. In order to fill its outermost shell, it needs 4 more electrons to make 8, like the noble gas neon. So it can share up to 4 additional electrons from other atoms to form covalent bonds, making it more stable. This makes carbon very versatile. Imagine if Lego bricks could be connected on 4 sides instead of 2. It would make building things easier. Each carbon atom can form a strong, stable bond with up to 4 other atoms, including other carbon atoms. This feature of carbon gives it the ability to form complex molecules, which is necessary for the complex chemical functions that life requires. Carbon-based molecules can form long, non-repetitive chains of polymers. They can form closed rings, and they can form single, double, or triple bonds with other elements. There are millions of possible configurations. Taken together, this makes carbon uniquely able to take part in a vast multitude of chemical processes. It can easily form long, stable polymer chains that can, for example, carry a lot of information. This is the case for DNA. DNA, after all, carries all the information that makes up living things, including us. And the 4 nucleotides that make up the building blocks of DNA are complex. Carbon is the backbone partly because it can handle this complexity. The other elements are not as interesting. Take, for example, oxygen, which is the most abundant element on Earth. It can form only 2 bonds. This means that once it bonds with 2 other atoms, it's done. It can't really form interesting scaffolds of complex molecules, like carbon can. Boron could be interesting because it can form 3 bonds, so its molecular structures could also be fairly complex. The problem is that it's extremely rare, so it's just not very available for life to have chosen it as its backbone. This brings us to the second factor that made carbon attractive for life to latch onto: abundance. Not only is carbon versatile, it's also abundant. If we look at the top 5 most abundant elements in our solar system, what we will see is the following in order of abundance: hydrogen, helium, oxygen, carbon, and nitrogen. Now, if we look at the top 5 elements in our body, what we will see is the following in order of abundance: oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and calcium. So what we see is that 4 out of the top 5 elements of the solar system are also among the top 5 elements making up the human body. This gives us another clue about why life is based on carbon. There's plenty of it in the universe. It's very abundant. It's easier to build something that you have a lot of. You can't build a castle if you don't have enough Lego bricks. At this point, you might say, if abundance is so important, then what about silicon, which is abundant and can also form 4 bonds? Or nitrogen, which can form only 3 bonds but makes up 78% of our atmosphere? This brings us to the third factor in determining the most suitable element that nature chose for life: stability. What I mean by this is bond stability. Let's look at that. As I said earlier, the structure of the periodic table is such that, as a rule of thumb, all elements in each column have the same general properties. Carbon turns out to be the lightest element in the group of 14, or 4, depending on how you count. Therefore, we would expect that the sister elements, like silicon and germanium, would have similar chemical properties. Silicon is the next lightest element in the column. Its position on the periodic table tells us that, like carbon, it also has 4 valence electrons. This means it can also make 4 covalent bonds. For every molecule made out of carbon, there can be an analogous molecule with silicon in its place. Silicon also happens to be quite abundant on Earth. In fact, there's more silicon on Earth than carbon. It's just locked up in rocks within the Earth's crust. Chemically, silicon has 4 unpaired electrons in its outer orbital, just like carbon. The main difference is that silicon has its unpaired electrons farther away from its nucleus, on its 3rd shell, whereas carbon's electrons are on its 2nd shell, closer to the nucleus. This makes silicon's electrons more weakly bound to its nucleus. The consequence of this is that when silicon bonds with other atoms, including itself, the bonds formed are weaker and thus less stable. To give you some numbers, the silicon-silicon bond strength is 196. In contrast, carbon-carbon bonds are stronger at 334. This bond strength factor is also a reason nitrogen is not well suited to be the backbone of organic chemistry, as its bond strength is roughly half of carbon. You can't make a skyscraper with a foundation built from cardboard. The structural support has to be strong to hold the walls, windows, and doors. Organic molecules have the same need. The backbone has to be strong enough to withstand the conditions under which other parts of the molecule break their bonds and react chemically with other molecules. So the carbon-carbon scaffold needs to remain intact while the functional components break apart. A molecular scaffold made from nitrogen or silicon would more easily break apart. So if we go back now to the periodic table and look at the 3 rows of elements, if we remove all the chemically inert elements and then remove elements that can't form more than 2 bonds, then we remove all the elements that are exceedingly low in abundance, we end up with carbon, nitrogen, and silicon. Then, if we remove those that cannot form strong single bonds to themselves to create a strong molecular backbone, this leaves pretty much only carbon as the best choice. It is uniquely suited for life because of the best combination of abundance, ability to form complex structures, and stable bonds with other carbon atoms.
Where does all this stuff come from? This rock, that cow, your heart. Not the things themselves, mind you, but what they're made of, the atoms that are the fabric of all things. To answer that question, we look to the law of conservation of mass. This law says, take an isolated system, defined by a boundary that matter and energy cannot cross. Inside this system, mass, aka matter and energy, can neither be created nor destroyed. The universe, to the best of our knowledge, is an isolated system. But before we get to that, let's look at a much smaller and simpler one. Here we have 6 carbon atoms, 12 hydrogen atoms, and 18 oxygen atoms. With a little energy, our molecules can really get moving. These atoms can bond together to form familiar molecules. Here's water, and here's carbon dioxide. We can't create or destroy mass. We're stuck with what we've got. So what can we do? They have a mind of their own. Let's see, they've formed more carbon dioxide and water, 6 of each. Add a little energy, and we can get them to reshuffle themselves to a simple sugar, and some oxygen gas. Our atoms are all accounted for, 6 carbon, 12 hydrogen, and 18 oxygen. The energy we applied is now stored in the bonds between atoms. We can re-release that energy by breaking that sugar back into water and carbon dioxide, and still, same atoms.
laws are law of conservation of mass and law of constant proportions. Let us understand each law in detail. Let's take a simple example. Just imagine we carry out an experiment in which element A and element B react together to give us a compound C. If we keenly observe, we find that atoms of elements A and B do not exist individually in the reaction mixture. They come together to give us the new compound C. Although it seems that atoms of elements A and B are degenerating, it's not the case. In reality, they are combining to give us the compound C. Antoine Lavoisier put forth the law of conservation of mass, and do you know what it tells us? It states that mass can neither be created nor destroyed in a chemical reaction. He explained this law by saying that matter is formed from the pre-existing matter, and the mass of the newly formed matter will be the same as that of the pre-existing matter. We can neither create new matter nor destroy the existing matter. So the chocolate milk that we made in the beginning came from the milk, sugar and chocolate mixed together. Similarly, we could see that compound C is formed only when atoms of elements A and B combine together. So new substances are formed only when pre-existing ones combine in nature. New things cannot be made from nothing. New things cannot be made from nothing. New things cannot be made from nothing.
Hyperbaric oxygen therapy is a medical treatment where a patient breathes 100% oxygen under pressure in a pressurized chamber. We normally only breathe 21% oxygen in our atmosphere, so you can see that this is a huge increase in the amount of oxygen that a patient is getting. The oxygen is pushed into the plasma, into the lymphatics, and into the distal tissues, and it creates the body's capability of creating angiogenesis, which is the formation of new blood vessels, which in turn bring more blood and healing factors to an area that is hypoxic. This has miraculous effects on healing, and it creates the body's capability of creating angiogenesis, which is the formation of new blood vessels, which is the formation of new blood vessels, which is the formation of new blood vessels, which is the formation of new blood vessels. This has miraculous effects on healing. This has miraculous effects on healing. This has miraculous effects on healing.
Neanderthal skeleton and skull is absolutely identical to a modern human, except for a few key features. The bones are thicker, stronger, more fit. Also, the wisdom teeth down here fit absolutely perfectly. These thick brows can vary in size from skull to skull. And a small detail that a lot of people may not know: the human brow of any individual, this bone right up here, continues to grow just ever so slightly through the entirety of a person's life. You may see on an old man's brow, he's got a very defined brow. So if you were to live 2 or 3 or 4 or 500 years, then that much larger brow that you see indenting up right there is precisely how your skull would look. And here's a Brachiosaurus. This animal has nostrils the size of a modern horse. What that means is that it couldn't even breathe today. This animal requires not only a different atmosphere, but an entirely different ecological system to survive at all. For example, this dragonfly fossilized on the screen here has a 2.5 foot long wingspan. Dragonflies take in perfectly the amount of oxygen that they need to fly. Dragonflies take in perfectly the amount of oxygen that they need to fly.
Indonesia's land of Papua, Tanah Papua. Consisting of 2 provinces, Papua supports one of the only remaining large tropical forests in the world. With the Amazon and Congo basins, these forests serve as the lungs of the planet.
Oasis of calm and peace. This is a private home garden sitting in the midst of Jakarta.
We normally only breathe 21% oxygen in our atmosphere.
I mean, look at this. Look at this. No lack of food. And not just regular food, we're talking about free food.
Follow-up studies have shown that incomes have risen threefold.
So income has doubled and expenditure has become half. So that is how they see their experience.
Okay. Over here we have another tomato forest. This was actually the only intentional tomato area of the entire garden because the other ones grew on their own. Tomatoes tend to do that. If, you know, a squirrel or something takes a tomato and they eat it here or there, they leave the seeds. Tomatoes will just what they call volunteer. So I have a lot of tomato volunteers around here, but this one was planted here. And I've got, look at these. These are my prize heirlooms. Gorgeous, huh? There we go. I'm gonna wrap that back up. This one needs to be eaten. I think I'm gonna take it. Boom. This is gonna make a really amazing BLT.
So I harvested some garlic scapes and I also harvested some new potatoes. These are volunteer plants from last year.
If you do nothing to a piece of land in temperate climates, it will become a forest. The forces of nature are actively moving the land towards a balanced, sustainable, and resilient ecosystem. This is called succession. In southwest England, an unusual forest is growing. Nut trees, fruit trees, shrubs, and perennial vegetables are planted in a way that mimics a natural woodland. This forest garden is the life's work of Martin Crawford, an unconventional gardener who grows 500 edible plants with just a few hours of maintenance per month.
After the grasses are set back, we come in with bulldozers with ripping shanks on the back to decompact the site.
So as the bulldozer drives along, it's ripping up the land, it's pulling up boulders.
After we decompact the land, we see the benefits right away. Native forest adjacent to these mine lands who begin seeding into the site. Wildlife start spreading seeds. We see wildflowers blooming. Water and nutrients are able to infiltrate the soil so that the trees have a greater chance of survival.
None of this was planted. This planted itself with seeds that washed in. They're all self-planted trees. They're all volunteers. This could have been planted to productive species. This was just a landscape rehabilitation project, soil erosion control project. Good intention, well intended, but it could have been taken so much further and could still be taken further. We can all do this. This could be planted to fruit trees. This could be planted to citrus, figs, pomegranate, guava, a whole mixture of trees, possibly even date palms. This could be a complete dryland desert oasis inside a swale, and still has the opportunity to be that. But we can all do this, from the drylands to the tropics, from here in the drylands to the temperate and the cold climates. These systems have a great advantage over irrigated agriculture because they're self-irrigated, and as you can see, even if you don't plant them, they're self-replicating. The soil fertility is still here and it's still increasing. It's higher quality soil here, it's better structured soil here than anywhere else around us. This is one of the smaller swales in a sequence of swales that were installed. They're not in any specific position and they could have been enormously longer. They're quite short, yet they've still had this incredible effect. Desert swales are large, they're quite large as swales go in profile, but they could have been enormously longer. I know that we can install systems that will do this and better for just as long and longer and give us production with very minimal energy input, and we should be doing it.
Aquaponics is the way of the future and is growing in popularity. But what is aquaponics? Basically, aquaponics is an energy-efficient and cost-effective way to grow your own plants, flowers, or vegetables by mimicking a natural ecosystem. Aquaponics uses both fish and plants in a symbiotic relationship in a closed-loop system. Fish and plants in a symbiotic relationship in a closed-loop system. Fish and plants in a symbiotic relationship in a closed-loop system. In a closed-loop system. In a closed-loop system. In a closed-loop system.
The circular economy is based on 3 key principles: design out waste and pollution, keep materials in use, and regenerate natural systems. And when you apply these principles, there's an opportunity to capture this multi-trillion economic opportunity while also tackling some of the biggest challenges that we face today around climate change, biodiversity loss, and plastic pollution.
From what I've seen, you know, you've got a thriving community and people seem very friendly. Community.
At Community First Village, we are creating a new movement for how we care for the chronically homeless, how we lift them off the streets into a community that they can call home for the rest of their lives. We firmly believe that housing alone will never solve homelessness, but community will. Community.
This space is gardened by our group gardens program. We have about 20 families gardening together and growing things that you wouldn't normally grow in your own individual garden plot. For example, squashes. You can see a lot of space is taken up by squash, and you wouldn't have that space to do something like that in your own garden. We have carrots and peppers, sunflowers, chard, cabbage, cauliflower, and broccoli. You can kind of see the fruit trees here. Look at the fruit trees, they're just totally loaded. These are the ground falls that we picked up so far.
That's one of the things that shocked us when we first opened this, right? Like 2 weeks into it, if you come in here in the mornings, a lot of our guests don't know each other, but they'll come out and they'll talk, they'll drink their coffee together. That's a little community. So it's really, really cool to see people, if you give them enough common ground, what they'll do, right? That's a little community, that's a little community, that's a little community.
The Napa County Seed Library is a free public resource for seed saving and sharing. We believe that seed saving cultivates respect for the land and the people who grow from it. It gives us a connection to each other, produces healthy food, and brings well-being to all of us in the community. Seed saving is valuable because it is a free, sustainable, and renewable resource. So seed saving is very important. It's akin to our survival as well as the survival of the planet. When we save seeds, we thrive, we connect with each other, we heal the planet. It's a wonderful thing. I'm going to keep doing it for a long time. Community, community, community.
You were saying that crime here is very low?
Yep.
And can you explain to me what happens when you catch a criminal?
We get a very big boat. The person that commit the crime, we're going to put him in front of the boat. And if we put him in the front of the boat, we expose him around the whole community.
Okay.
The chief is going to be in the boat. The elders, the youths, women, exposing the person to the whole community that he has committed such crime.
Right.
And after which you'll be sent away from the community.
You send them away?
We send them away from the community.
Oh wow.
And people are always scared of the punishment.
Okay.
So no crime. Though there's fight sometimes,
right.
But if there is a fight within two persons, what the chief is do, the chief has to call the both side and make peace.
Okay.
Yes, and that's the real duty of the chief, to make peace in his community.
Your dad?
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Beautiful. Okay, so we've come and met, obviously, Sunday the Prince.
Yes.
And would you like to introduce your dad, the chief, to everybody?
Yeah, his name is Chief Shemidi Emmanuel.
Sunday the Prince, Sunday the Prince, Sunday the Prince, the Prince, the Prince.
This is a radical design office. It's permaculture informed. The work that we do is kind of value centered. We want to build community. Whether it's a houseless village or a co-housing retrofit. So we want to address, issues across the spectrum, from food security to housing. Okay.
Where are we headed right now?
Well, we're headed through the fabric of the city on our way to a variety of different villages, and some of them are nestled into existing neighborhoods as retrofits. For instance, Kailash Eco Village is the conversion of a former apartment building into essentially a form of co-housing. In the American experience, this is a rare thing, that people would create their own collective environment together, and collective is kind of a charged word. I mean to work collaboratively to create their own habitat together. So most people don't even realize that when they live in America, they live in a housing development that was created for profit. And because it's normal not to talk to people, it's also normal that Americans don't know that they don't have a single kind of village heart or community gathering place in their community, like a piazza for the Italian, or a plaza for the Spanish, or a place for French people, or a platz for German people, or a platia for Greek people. We're coming to this intersection because I heard it was about to be repainted with this giant sunflower, but it hasn't quite happened yet.
But you do see they put Sunnyside Piazza, so they're trying to maybe adopt ideas as you were talking about.
Yeah, but the Sunnyside Piazza is the second case of an intersection being transformed retroactively into a public square in the city of Portland. The American Journal of Public Health and the New England Journal of Public Health have published studies that establish that simply by painting the street, that the neighborhood becomes safer and they become physically and mentally healthier, measurably. This is the Cully neighborhood. It's an area of the city where developers put relatively small and really modest houses on very large rural lots. This isn't really widely understood in the US, but on a federal level, to fund such projects would help to grow the economy of the country. But in this context, the city is wanting to encourage more density. This is Cully Green that you're looking at now. There's many different kind of environments in this co-housing community. You're kind of looking at sort of the urban street right here. And when you come around the corner, you can see a grove of fir trees, so people have a great commons for social gatherings and playing. There's different green spaces, there's community gardens. And you can see here that everyone, their front porches are very generous, they're very large, and they kind of spill out with edible landscapes. You can see a lot of permaculture principles at work here. The terminus of the view here is the community building, where there's a large kitchen and gathering spaces and shared laundry facilities and even guest apartments. And then there are small units for kind of starting couples or families. It has a lot of solar power to it. The walls are all of the thermal envelopes are very thick, so we start off being very efficient by not needing much energy to heat or cool the space. This is the city where water catchment swales were first innovated. This is where water will run along the edge of the curb and then find a curb cut and flow into a depression just adjacent to the street. And what we're trying to do here is just remediate water locally rather than collecting it all or having it discharge into the local river, which, then carries stuff off of the street, all kinds of particulate into the waterway that then contributes to the decline of fish populations. This is a curb cut that just lets water flow directly into the adjacent swale. And this is a structured swale. There's actually layers of mulch and plants and compost. And then, ultimately there's gravel at the bottom of this, which creates a lot of airspace, and that holds space for water to fill in the voids between the stones. So this is a structured street swale. And this is kind of a wonderful foreground to the entry to the village over here, which is a built gateway. Right along the street edge, you can see a variety of different fruit trees. So they're making a statement about urban food security for sure here. So this is the gateway into Cully Grove. You can kind of see as you look through that the way the landscape was designed is it just gracefully falls, toward the slope, and you come from one environment to another environment. You get places to rest along the way. Most developments are characterized by a kind of an approach where things are kind of regimented in space and they're very repetitious, expressing kind of an interest in efficiency. But villages are characterized by a balance of objects and spaces that are generative. There's a common spaces where people actually do things together. So there's different kinds of important common organs to the body of this community. And then the whole thing is punctuated by artistic expression. And definitely on everyone's porch you see things that are dear to them or conducive or cozy. And when that's very successful, people really will thrive together. The main thing that characterizes this community and the one across the street is that there's a social infrastructure of people that actually self-govern. They own the place together. They own their individual homes separately, and then they own the land that they're sitting on collectively, so that it really is like a village in that sense. Frankly, you can do this kind of thing as a project like this, where you're building everything at once like we did here, or you can actually retrofit an existing neighborhood with this same kind of benefit. Basically, we're reinvesting in the civic infrastructure within the city boundaries that already exist and just trying to, you know, add population, which obviously means we have to add places and we have to add services to just simply transform the city as it exists now.
How would you do that? How difficult would that be?
So one of the secrets to integrating a project like this that we have been employing is that the fabric of the architecture is not itself radical. What's radical in this context is the fact that people actually have cooperative ownership. And what's not radical is the architecture. And they're also profoundly social. Like, these are bigger porches that make a commitment to the public space of the village. This avenue is lined by the homes of everyone who lives here. So this whole pathway is a public space where it's kind of hard to walk through here without having the opportunity to interact with someone or see something beautiful. And in this case, luckily, there's a lot of families with children. It's extraordinary how many people live here with kids, but you know, it's not surprising. A lot of people would really rather have their children grow up with ready-made playmates and lots of babysitters around them and people that can help them when they need help and support than to live in a place where people don't even speak to each other. Yeah.
So is there a farm in the back?
Yeah, there's an extensive community garden. You know, it's just an opportunity for the people who live here to get outside and do things with each other, but there's a lot of cooperative management. There's huge swales. One of the largest swales features an orchard, so you're actually watering trees that feed you by using the runoff from the buildings. And one of the things that they're going to be doing shortly is to install a giant unifying graphic in the street and other features that really make it feel like they're a continuous village that are connected to each other. In Portland, we've made it possible, we've made it easy by passing a few key ordinances. The first one allows any neighborhood to transform as many street intersections into public squares for people as they want to do for free. And for anybody who's hearing that and thinking, well, that's outrageous, that must be crazy, I just want to remind people that it wasn't until 1920 that the streets were for cars. And for the previous countless thousands of years, the spaces between people's homes was actually a commons that was characterized by all manner of programmed and planned and unplanned activities. In that context, children were free to play and safe within earshot of their parents. Just imagine a mother being able to look out the window and see her children playing because they don't have to go blocks away to go to a designated playground. So in about 1920, we lost the ability to have this space to utilize for a cultural context, and instead it became just for cars. In Portland, we've legalized the transformation of street intersections into public squares, as many as any residential neighborhood wants, all of them if they like. And then the streets that connect the intersections together are all available now for being recreated. And you are able to put things in this space between the sidewalk and the curb and between the sidewalk and your property line, free of charge and free of permit.
Look at the fruit trees, they're just totally loaded. These are the ground falls that we picked up so far, and they may look a little dubious, but actually these are great for apple pies, apple sauce. You can dry these too if you wanted to. So we get a huge bounty of fruits here.
And you planted all these?
We planted all these, yeah, right. So when we started out, this was just grass here in the planting strips. And from here up to the building was a parking lot in the middle and then grass and gravel on each side. There were a few ornamental shrubs right at the base of the building, but it was essentially just a big, open, kind of dead space. And you can see once you depave, we depaved the parking lot there, and now it's a fabulous garden.
Vacant land around Detroit, abandoned houses, things like that. And then the second one is the food insecurity issue. So you might have heard of Detroit being called a food desert. So people don't have access or availability or the means to get nutritious foods all year round. So we try to tackle those challenges. How we do that is we have this urban farm here. So we have 3 acres of land in total. The farmland that you can see right now is 1 acre. And on this farm we have 300 different varieties of produce growing. And since 2011 we've given out over 100,000 pounds of produce to over 2,000 households in a 2.5 mile square radius. So we've given out a lot, and every Saturday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. that's when we give out the produce, and it's all free. So anyone from the Detroit city or area can come into our farm and pick up the produce.
And then there's also flowers and fruit that people are invited to pick here. We usually post signs. There's actually one right here that says feel free to snack on any of the fruits. And the same goes for all of the fruit along the street here.
Why you did like this? What is this? She said swaler trench. In their language is a trench. And what did you do here? They took out the soil from this portion and they raised the bund. On the bund they planted a lot of trees. So why you did this? No, to stop the water, rainwater. Why did you across like this? Why can't you put like this? As she said, is a perpendicular, is the water flow is towards this side. Some water is percolated and some water is laterally moved, which helped the plants which we planted on the bund. Because of that moisture, we could able to see this greenery and these flowers are there. Otherwise, we never watered so far. They introduced a lot of trees, combination of food as a leguminous nitrogen fixers and some fruit plants. A little amount of water is enough to grow these plants because they're very hardy. At that time, they don't need much water, and a lot of rainwater being harvested. Anybody can pluck the fruit and they eat. That kind of fair share is happening by planting this kind of trees. In one bund, you can introduce multiple species, like about already so far we have seen already 7-8 varieties. When I came here and I'm talking to the people, they were very hopeless on their lands by seeing these lands, but most of them are landless. So I approached the government, at the same time I approached the community. What is the possible way to get the land? That lands that belongs to government, but the land should be enjoyed by the people. They are all untouchable community. They are not even totally neglected community in the village. I got land for each family. Today, when I came this village, 60% of people were landless. Now today, almost every household has some piece of land. They said it's hopeless. Then I thought we'll make it hopeful.
There are some who call Narsena the Gandhi of permaculture, as he works tirelessly not only to regenerate wastelands into paradisical food forests, but has succeeded in obtaining land from many of the landless poor of the untouchable caste, who are at the very bottom of India's social ladder. Some say that permaculture is a revolution disguised as organic gardening, and in Narsena and Padma Koppala's case, this is absolutely the truth.
Of Detroit, currently there are over 20,000 vacant lots. That means there is land that is empty, that originally housed businesses or homes that were demolished over time, and they are just sitting.
It's very vibrant and it feels thriving.
Yeah.
And like you're walking around other streets and it's just like a little bit you can see some buildings that might look a little dilapidated and run down, and then you get here and it seems like a thriving space. Yeah. There's all these fresh plants. It's really cool. Really a cool thing to witness, and I want to see more stuff like this in the cities that I visit.
They own their individual homes separately, and then they own the land that they're sitting on collectively. They own their individual homes separately, and then they own the land that they're sitting on collectively. They own their individual homes separately, and then they own the land that they're sitting on collectively. They own their individual homes separately. They own their individual homes separately. They own their individual homes separately, and then they own the land that they're sitting on collectively. And then they own the land that they're sitting on collectively. And then they own the land that they're sitting on collectively. What's radical in this context is the fact that people actually have cooperative ownership. What's radical in this context is the fact that people actually have cooperative ownership. What's radical in this context is the fact that people actually have cooperative ownership.